she is, your host, bringing joy worldwide, CharlaAwakened.
Well, hello, folks. This is Charla Anderson with CharlaAwakened for such a time as this. This time is November the 19th, 2015, and the year is just drawing nigh, and oh my gosh, it's almost over, and it's hard to believe, and we are just totally in awe of the blessings that have happened this year. It's been probably my most remarkable year of my entire life, and just because I choose to continue and finding intriguing opportunities and saying yes when they show up. So that's who I am, and what has brought me to this moment in time, this whole moment in time of this unbelievable universe that's conspired to bring me sitting in this chair right now with some amazing people in my life and incredible opportunities. And I always encourage, my name means to chat, so I'm just chatty, and my name also means joy in Greek, so I choose joy, and joy is a choice. And it was a transformational moment that I had to receive that, and I'll tell about that again sometime. But it is brought. I just like to tell everyone, I want to encourage you that there's nothing you can do to be loved more or less. You are perfect exactly as you are. God loves you exactly as you are. There's not one thing that you can change to make that love diminish. And when you can realize that, and because everything that's ever happened in the entire universe from creation has brought us to this moment in time, sitting here listening, doing whatever you are doing, this is all we have and the only place we have to start from. So it's a great time just to love people where they are and to love people through it. And my job on this show is to really love you where you are, and love you through these transitions from these unsteady and unstable times that it seems like are going on out in the world, but we don't live in fear, so it's all perfect. And I am incredibly honored today to have a very special guest, Dr. Shelley Kaehr. She's an author of over 30 books. She's an expert in the field of healing with stones and Edgar Cayce. And I also have sitting here with me is Wanda, Ironheart, an energy healer as well. And she's had sessions with Dr. Kaehr or Shelley, and we will just continue with getting to know both of these amazing people. And what I like to usually say to introduce my guests is who are you in this world, and then a bit about what you do. So Dr. Shelley Kaehr, and I'll spell it Kaehr.
Yay!
Yay! without
give her 10 stars for that alone, believe me.
So I've been practicing. So,
apparently.
Yeah. So Shelley, I can call you Shelley from here on out because you're just a human being like me.
Right. We're all human beings.
Or whatever we are. So tell me about yourself and who you are, and what brought you to what you're doing and writing all these books, and tell me, including all that, so you can just take the floor, but who's Edgar Cayce and how does that come about? So there's a lot to...
Right, there's a lot. First of all, Charla, thank you so much for having me on the show. It has been such a blessing to meet you, and I'm very excited to be here. So just in a nutshell, I guess, of all the things you just asked, I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and when I was a little girl, my dad worked for a company that manufactured a lot of the Native American style jewelry that you still see in areas around Albuquerque and Santa Fe. And then he had an opportunity to move the family to Arizona, and he was the manager of the Kingman and Bisbee turquoise mines back in the 1970s. So now as an adult, I work with the gems and minerals and healing, but it was something that I've been around since childhood. And then when I was in my 20s, I met a Native American shaman who taught me that you could place stones on the body and that they would begin to change the energy of the body and therefore draw different things to you. Like the fact that you choose joy, for example. That's a choice, like you said, and it absolutely is. There's different stones that bring different frequencies that can cause our energy to shift so that we begin to create that joy in our life, or that if we need better health or we need love or peace or all the things that people want. The different stones, what I was shown is that they have different frequencies, and different stones bring different things to you depending on what it is that you are seeking. Kind of like a physical manifestation of the law of attraction.
Wow.
Like a tool that you could use along with that intention to create joy. There's certain, stones that can be used. How I got into studying Edgar Cayce, that's another whole all of this is kind of a long story, but several years ago, I'm a past life regression therapist, and I was working with Dr. Raymond Moody, who wrote the book Life After Life, and we were touring around the country. And I went to one of his training classes where I met some people from the Edgar Cayce Foundation who had a bunch of my books, and they took them up to Virginia Beach, and my friend there mailed me a copy of a book that was put out in 1964 called Edgar Cayce on Gems and Stones. And just to back up a little bit, Edgar Cayce, for those who, a lot of people know Cayce, but again, it's good to remind us that he was known as the world's greatest psychic, and he lived back in the 1940s. And what happened with Edgar Cayce was he was always kind of a sickly child, and kind of sickly into adulthood. And so somebody said, hey, you need to go have some hypnosis to see if we can get to the source of some of these medical issues that you're having. And they put him into a trance, and he went so deeply into the trance that he began bringing through information from what he called the source. This source, then people would come to him, and they would have all kinds of different, medical conditions or things that were basically non-treatable, and he would tell them to go do something. And some of these remedies were so unbelievably unconventional that in your conscious waking, we all know there's a lot more to it, everybody, than the 3D waking reality. We know that. But some of these things were so far out, you would never, in a rational thought, have followed some of this advice. But people who did, because they were kind of at the end of their rope, then they began receiving different kinds of healings. And so Cayce would go into trance, and a lot of what the work was about was looking into people's past lives, like in Egypt in particular. Have you heard of Atlantis, everybody? I think you saw that on the Discovery Channel. Whether you believe in that or not, whether you believe that is reality or not, Edgar Cayce is really the person who first brought the idea of Atlantis and a hidden subcontinent under the ocean into our consciousness today, and it's still being talked about. A lot of the things that he predicted are starting to come true now, and so that's kind of Edgar Cayce. So how I got into this, I was working with Raymond Moody. I had written a book on past life regression that was endorsed by Dr. Brian Weiss, who's now on Oprah, and he endorsed my hypnotic processes. So we were in a conference, and I met the ARE. They sent me a copy of this book that was written in 1964. And I was going out to Arizona for my annual pilgrimage out across the desert, and I took the book with me, and I was going to go out to kind of find the materials that were listed in this book. Again, some of them very unconventional that I had never heard of before, definitely had never worked with before. So I bought the items, I'm driving back across the desert, and I was just getting, maybe I should contact them to see if they want to redo this book. And so literally I called my friend on the phone, and the day before I called, they were in a conference room going, can someone please update this book? And so that book, the first book I wrote for them was back in 2005, and it was called Edgar Cayce's Guide to Gemstones, Minerals, Metals, and More. And back then I told them that I knew in my soul that I had to write one more book for them. So I sent them a proposal. They said no. Sent them another proposal. They said no. And then finally, a few years ago, how we go, what I'm talking about, how we go through different periods in our life where we're kind of called to look back on some things and kind of just finish some things, bless it, and so we can move on. And I was going through kind of rereading and re-looking at some old notes and things that I had written, and I found some material that is now the new book called Edgar Cayce's Sacred Stones. And when I sent it to them, I said, oh my gosh, this is the thing that I have needed to do for 10 years. And so now that it's out, it kind of just makes me feel really happy, because I feel like some things, are up for grabs, but some things maybe we chose to do before we got here, and I feel like this is something that I was
you were assigned
to do
basically.
Kind of like you're assigned to do the show.
I'm supposed to be here. I don't know why.
Because she's assigned to do it, and she's doing what she's supposed to do. So good job.
So often we don't know why we are doing something. We just know when we step into it, it shows up, things show up, and it continue, and you start feeling a sense of accomplishment and things like that. So very interesting how that happens. And something that I will point out, because so often my background is so traditional, Southern, traditional religion, and I have not given that up. And I think I said that last week. I've not given that up. But I've added this new dimension to it. And when I was in Israel on a tour, went to Ben Gurion's grave site, and Moshe, my tour guide, said he just kind of dismissed that Americans send dead flowers to people, cut flowers for people, and what they do in Israel is put stones on the grave sites.
I know about that.
And so it is living stones that are putting on. So I want to relate it back to my traditional upbringing that I've learned since then, because placing a stone and picking a stone and putting it on a gravesite is a huge act of honor and respect, and more so because they're living stones.
Yes.
Stones have life. They come from the earth. The earth is a living earth. And when you say non-traditional things that Edgar Cayce was saying to do, my mind is going, okay, well, Jesus said go dip in the water 7 times or something, or go put mud on your eyes, or do certain things that are very unconditional. So I'm not dismissing my beliefs, I'm just opening my eyes that so much of that was perhaps a little more, we've been taught so rigid, and Jesus can do all things, and he's given us our authority to do all things, and even more than what he could do. So it's great to be learning these things to me and just becoming aware. And so you've heard of that too, where they put them on the graves?
Yes, I went to Prague. I was in the Czech Republic, and
I love Prague.
Isn't it wonderful?
Beautiful, the clock tower, and the beer capital of the world.
Did you go to that the old Jewish cemetery? It's in there's a quarter there that has the oldest Jewish cemetery in the world.
Yes, I walked through.
And I walked through these ancient gravestones. They're sticking up all over the place. And yes, this is a sign of respect to place the stone on the grave of the loved one to say, hello, I'm here. And like you said, it's alive, and it's a
stones
form of honor.
have a vibration inside of them, and so that's very, very cool. That anyway,
exactly what
so
you're
let's bring rocks to the funerals instead of flowers. It work.
Yeah,
I would prefer it personally.
Yeah, exactly. Or give a donation or something. And to speak about what you're talking about, I think one of the reasons why the Edgar Cayce material had resonated with me so much is because Cayce was a devout Christian who was very, very versed. He was an expert in the Bible. And just like you took that foundational belief in Jesus and the Bible and added on to it and was open to that other possibility while keeping the faith firm. And so a lot of what this new book goes into is something that I have wanted to write about for 10 years, and that is the stones of the Bible, because in the Bible there are many gemstones.
Beryl, do you know about Beryl? The Beryl is mentioned. Anyway.
Absolutely, yes.
Offshoot of that, because... So, wow, well, thank you. And I haven't had the chance to read your books. I just met you last week and learned some of this, and I'm very grateful that you had the opportunity or the time to show up and be with us today here. And let me bring Wanda Ironheart in here to this conversation, because she knows and has known Shelley for quite some time.
Yes, I have. And actually, I met her and she was giving a talk, and I really liked the talk she was giving about the stones. It was at a meetup, because I also believe, because Actually, I'm a Native American intuitive multi-dimensional healer, and I feel the vibration of the stone, so I really resonated with everything that she was saying, and it was right in line with what I believe. And she just simplifies it so much to where you can understand it, and it's not complicated. And it's so, believable. And then she got up there and did some demonstrations and had, some people laying on the beds and stuff. And it was just a really, really big hit. So after that time, I said, hey, you know what? I might need a session with her, a past life regression. Well, I work the psychic fairs, and I work, I know a lot of psychics and healers. But I was thinking in my mind, being a little bit close-minded, well, I've had a lot of sessions, and I've had a lot of readings. I'm just wondering, what would be different. And then we went and did a session, and wow, I was like really blown away, because I went back into 2 different centuries. I think one was the 16th century and one was the 15th century, back into a past life that I had. And it was just like really, really easy. It wasn't anything complicated. And she did it so smoothly, made me feel comfortable. And I went back and healed some things that I feel like that were holding me from being the awesome healer that I am today. I released some of the fears, the anxieties that I had from those past lives, and it really helped me. And I was really, really impressed. I really was.
Well, I'm excited because you're going to be my guest December 10th, and we'll have you really, because you've done some amazing work as well. And you did a session with myself and some of my friends, including my daughter, and had, I feel, just really miraculous things show up, and they're brief, they're not long, and they're, and yours is primarily Reiki, Holy Fire Reiki, or something like that.
Well, that's the foundation of what I do, but I'm so intuitive that I'm hearing a clear connection. Me and the source have a clear connection, and it's kind of like it's like spot on what that person needs, and everybody is different. And sometimes it's just to be uplifted, words, to uplift them, because words heal as well. And then sometimes they might, there's 3 things that really, hinder your energy. That's eating, your thoughts, and exercise. So sometimes it just hones in on those 3 areas, but yeah.
So we'll get a lot more about what you're doing soon.
Yes.
But Wanda Ironheart, and it's IronheartEnergyHealing.com, IronheartEnergyHealing.com, and you're in the Fort Worth area.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure that we cover, don't forget, and to find you, Shelley, is the best way to find you. You have a website.
Yeah, my website is at pastlifelady.com.
Pastlifelady.com.
Yes, and I've got a Facebook fan page there at pastlifelady.com as well.
Okay.
And I can say Wanda has given me some healing as well, just like you, Charla, and yeah, very, very awesome. For me, it's getting back to some of the foundational things I was talking about earlier, because besides the Reiki, she is a Native American. She brings all of that energy to the forefront. Very powerful.
And another thing that I'm so blessed to know, and when you guys, you and Al, your husband, Wanda, you guys really have scriptures memorized, and you've got the Psalms and a lot of the scriptures around your home, and to me that's comforting to know that we're not throwing that aspect of our beliefs out. And when I was trying to step into this, what I call, it was like this woo-woo world that that I was so kind of fearful of. I just thought that nobody would love Jesus, but everybody loves Jesus. So I think that, anyway, that I digress on that, because I feel like it's a huge part of my job to help people understand that it's not all or nothing, or but it's yes and.
Exactly.
Yes and. We've got Jesus, and we've got his healing powers, and now we've got these educations that are showing up in the healing world that the results speak for themselves. So that's huge, you know. So that's awesome. So thank you for sharing that experience. And so what's next for you? What are you doing in your real daily work? What is it now that you've written over 30-something books and
just keep going, keep writing. I'm always writing, and I'm going to be doing a lot of classes next year as well. So.
What are your classes?
I'm going to be doing some full-day workshops to go into this new book and the energetic properties of the stones. So, and also delving into the biblical aspects. And I work with a lot of massage therapists and healers, showing them how to integrate this work into their own practices as well.
And that's basically using the stones,
Yeah,
and
the
it's not all
stones.
crystals. It's all different kinds of stones, and you brought some to talk about. And,
Right.
And so, do you want to
Yeah, let me
bring
talk
that
about a
out?
couple of those.
She brought some,
Yeah.
and we actually are
Those of you in
videotaping
Radioland,
it.
yes,
Radioland may
you
not
won't
be able to
see these, but the first stone that I was introduced to in terms of its energetic property was a piece of green fluorite. And for those of us, if you're listening on the radio and you want to go ahead and check out the video online, you'll be able to see this. But my friend had a piece of green fluorite very similar to this one, and told me to just lay it on my forehead. And let me speak to what you were saying before. You know, I consider myself to be a Christian, and this gentleman also was raised Catholic. He was a Native American who was raised as a Catholic. So again, like just exactly like what you're saying, we're not throwing out our foundations of who we actually are. We're just saying, did God put different tools on our planet for us to use, and so this is just one of those. So I just want to say, like, I did not believe in this necessarily. I mean, it's one thing, I grew up in a turquoise mine, but it's a different thing to say, does this actually do something? So he placed it on my forehead and told me just to simply sit still. I did not feel a thing for quite a long time, and then all of a sudden, bzz, it's like a frequency wave.
Yes.
It kind of just got stronger and stronger, and then it just tapers off, and I opened my eyes and I said, what just happened? And so that's kind of how I began. I started saying, well, okay, that's a piece of fluorite. Fluorite is typically good for, like, if you need concentration. Like, let's say you're a student and you're cramming.
You just go ahead and put that right here.
Thank you. There she goes. Look, she's getting more and more concentrated already. I love it. He goes, yeah, so there she goes. See? It happens that fast, everybody. You're a student, you're trying to cram for an exam. But then the other thing I was noticing, let's say I lay this here, or this is your sinus cavities here. So I started experimenting with a lot of stones by taking what some people would call a chakra balancing or an energy balancing. I call it a power nap. An afternoon nap. You know how you take a little nap in the afternoon just to kind of refresh? And so in that amount of time, that wave that I'm talking about, it could sometimes take about 20 minutes. Just lay some stones on. I started using the fluorite. Placing it here, it began to help my sinuses to drain.
Here, right below your eyes,
Yes.
on each side of your nose.
Yes,
yeah,
where
right
these
the
sinuses are.
yeah.
And also, or putting it in the eye sockets, it can help just kind of relax the eyes, because you know that we're staring at phones and computers all day long. And so it just kind of helps to shift that. And so then from there, I started just experimenting with different stones and gems and just kind of thinking about the things that they do. But what was interesting is if other people were writing about them, I never really read what they wrote until later. And different people would be saying the same thing about different stones and minerals, which tells me, like what you were saying before, when you go to the cemetery, that these are alive and they have consciousness. And, all indigenous cultures talk about that God gave us different tools and things on the earth that all have consciousness. So different people can kind of tune into that.
That I like to just kind of make sure that we kind of integrate some of that, because it's not all woo-woo. It's very powerful messages that we can take our traditional medicine and all that kind of stuff, and there has a place for that. But
Absolutely.
this adds into it. So yeah, so I want one of those. I want the concentrating stone.
Yay!
Focus? Is that?
Yeah, focus.
Okay.
Yes.
Do they have one that cleans houses?
If they did, that would be something.
Shelley, weren't you saying the other night at Satori when you were a guest there about, what was it, the crown or the breastplate or?
Oh yeah, yes. Speaking of the Bible, in the
Yes.
Bible, there's the breastplate in the book of
Yes.
It has the
Exodus,
12.
and each one of the stones represented one of the 12 tribes. There's, in the book of Revelations, there's crystals, there's rubies, and different things. So these are things that are prominently featured throughout the Bible that the book gets into in depth.
Right, that beautiful breastplate that has 12 stones. The one,
Yes.
and it's a epoch or whatever they called it. But-
Here's what's so interesting. I was watching USA Channel this summer. They had a show called Dig on. That I don't know if people saw it because it was just on the USA Network, but it's kind of like this espionage intrigue story that's set in Jerusalem, and it's about this ambassador who's trying to steal the breastplate, and they've got the breastplate there on national television. And I'm thinking to myself, this book that's been in my consciousness, I've wanted to write about the stones that were in the Bible for a long time, like over 10 years, and the fact that it's actually getting on TV where massive
Mainstream.
people can see it in a mainstream environment is kind of reaffirming all the things even that you're doing here in this program, which is so awesome, is that more and more people are trying to look to this foundation of Jesus, God, Bible, and what are these other things. And I think it's starting to become more a mainstream idea.
I think
Thanks
it
to
is
pioneers
too.
like you.
Well, I just know that when it feels right, and you get, and it's all faith, a lot of it is faith, but when it feels right, then you step into it and be discerning, because there's not everything is not everything presented out there right now is necessarily the truth. So you got to be discerning as well. But I think and thank you for bringing that up, because I love that. That's a great example of the shifting that we're trying to do. I'm trying to do in this world of meshing the tradition with the new ideas that are not really new, but people are being drawn to them with the giftings that they have. So, and you have other stones. I'm going to
Exactly. Let's see. I brought.
Fix me.
I brought one of the stones I like to use.
You do interventions?
You don't need an intervention, my sweetie. You are doing great.
Yeah, you are.
My shaman friend taught me about getting a bath. Like in Reiki, when we have people on the massage table, we would always want to wash out their energy fields. So with gem healing, you can take any stone really and just wash it over the person's energy fields to kind of get the energy moving. And so one of the stones I like to use for that is an amethyst, because it's some of the different stones, like I talk about the stones of the rays. Amethyst is actually, if we could put it under a microscope, it's vibrating at the same frequency wave as the purple ray, and so it opens up the third eye energy center, but it also is a very high frequency stone that helps to move out unwanted energies out of the field.
And it's the amethyst, that purple amethyst, you find it a lot in geodes, and it's so beautiful.
And it's pretty prevalent, so most people are very familiar with it as well, but it's a very good one to use in healing. And then speaking of the Bible, one of my favorite stones, I wrote a book several years ago, it's called Top 10 Healing Stones of All Time. And so I listed the top 10, and so I'm going to go ahead and give you number 1, which this one's called the Bloodstone. And I don't know if the camera can see it, but I'll describe it for everybody. So Bloodstone is a dark green stone. This is colored by the chlorite element in the periodic table, and then it's got these red inclusions in it. This one's got a pretty good piece of red in it. And so what was happening is several years ago I had a client who was coming to me for some work because he had an undiagnosed illness and nobody could help him. He went to doctors and the same kind of things that happen to a lot of people, unfortunately. So we did some work, we did some energy healing, we did different kinds of work. He bought some bloodstones from me, and then he had left his cell phone I was teaching a class, so he left it and I had to go meet him the next day. So he takes this bloodstone that he has literally had for less than 12 hours out of his pocket, and he goes, I need to show you this. So those who are watching here on the network, bloodstone is a really solid, dark green stone. And so what happened was, with less than 24 hours, not even 12 hours later, he comes back, and this stone, if you can imagine, the whole stone, all the green had been sucked out of it, and it looked like a clear stone.
Wow.
Because his body had taken on the elements to assist. And this kind of helped him truly turn the corner, which we're not allowed to say that, okay? Like she said earlier, medicine has its place. Gemstones assist us vibrationally. Hopefully we don't need to go to the doctor, but it all has its place. But that said, there was no color in the stone anymore. And so I began doing some more research on this. Since then, thousands of people have reported that this has happened. What this is, they believe that this is the stone that was under Christ when he was on the cross, and this red represents the blood of Christ. And so just like Christ sacrificed for all of us, the Bloodstone is sacrificing of itself to provide a healing for people. Wow. And so
gives me chills.
It is, to me, this is the top healing stone of all time.
Wow. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really, it's got a sweet energy. How to use them is something that people usually want to know. A lot of times, I do like the tumble stones because we can just keep them in our pocket. Of course, we wear jewelry. That's one way to use them. But a lot of people just keep these stones in the pocket, or you can lay them on, or just sit them under your pillow at night. We have a friend who makes pillowcases where you can just tuck the stones inside the pillowcase at night. Because awesome. The vibrational frequencies are affecting you, whether you hold on to them or not. And that was another thing,
it's
I guess.
Close enough to you to be...
It's making an impact. The fact that we're near these plants. I mean, this is true of everything. We're near these plants, and so these plants are creating a vibrational impact on us, which is very healing. It's the same as the stones and minerals as well.
Absolutely. I even go as far as I have stones in my bathroom. I have rose quartz, and I'll take a hot bubble bath and put some stones in there to get their vibration as well. And they sell these little mesh things you can hang on the tub, and you can just put a barrage of little different stones in there. And I also have a pillowcase that I put the stones in to change if I'm having a nightmare, if I have a headache, if I'm not feeling good. I might even put a bloodstone in there, just depending on what's going on with me vibrationally. I'll intuitively change my stones up, and I'll also set them in my room accordingly, and in the living room or my office, and change the vibration of a room with the stones. So yes, absolutely. My grandfather taught me that everything's connected. We're all a vibration. The stones, the plants, Mother Earth, we're all connected. And yes, it's the big key in them stones is the vibration.
Right, and people say, well, do I need to believe in this for it to work? Everybody's wearing jewelry, but you're not. Again, it's kind of like when I grew up in the mines. You're not really thinking about how that's affecting you. But the other thing is, this particular stone, the Bloodstone, I had some friends who had whose family members had leukemia. I had 2 family members with leukemia, and so sometimes people are not really open to this. So he was just saying, "Hey, Dad, could you just stick this on your nightstand, or occasionally put that in your pocket?" Not really giving an explanation. The stone still faded out, because it's still a vibrational frequency, whether he believes in it consciously or not. And I'm into when I teach energy healing classes, when I'm teaching Reiki or something like that in particular, is it okay, there's a whole thing about healing ethics. Is it okay for me to send you healing unless you tell me that it's okay to receive that healing? There's 2 levels of information though. I was working with a man several years ago who had a severe case of cancer. And so his mother heard me on the radio, called me over to do the healing. And so I said to him, is it okay for me to do this healing? And he said, oh yes, it's okay. So I'm standing over him, trying to send energy. There is no energy coming out of my hands at all, because he was truly ready to cross over. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, and he kind of came into my mind's eye. And I went, oh my gosh, he looked totally different, because he had a really bad tumor, a really big tumor here. But the gentleman who was in my mind's eye, he was all dressed in a suit. I said, oh, hello, how are you? And what can I do for you today? And he said, well, look, I'm not interested in what you have. I'm ready to go. And, I don't know how to say that when my mother's sitting here in the chair, which is another reason why I don't like to have family members around when I'm doing a healing session. But I said, you know what? I can totally honor that. I'm going to just send you some energy so that we can, would it be okay to have me help you feel better, just to open up some of the breathing? And so he goes, you can do that? And I said, yeah, I can do that. Okay. Whoosh, all of a sudden my hands are just lit up. I just sent him the energy, And then, of course, a couple of weeks later, he passed because, you know, one of the big things about healing, you know, only God has, we are not God, and we are not, we don't have the answers. And so the minute you start hearing people say that, you need to run the other direction. Only God knows what's time to live and when it's time to go. And you know that none of us are going to get out of this alive. We're all going somewhere better than this, and you know that. So we just have to open our hands and say, if God wants to be that messenger or that inspiration to help somebody on their path, that's fine. But we don't have any control over that. So we have to kind of step out of any attachment to it and realize that this isn't even about us anyway. So if I can help someone feel better, I worked in a hospice for a long time as well. And that was another time when it's really interesting because you can't send energy to people who are actively dying. You can love them and pray for them and give them peace about knowing that this is time for them to go. But we're not the ones doing this anyway. God is in charge.
Our bodies are healers. Our bodies heal themselves. We don't have to, you know, but these are seemingly tools to assist the healing. And there's just so many that I've run across, and the stones is just one. But our bodies are designed to heal themselves. Deuteronomy 7:15, and I say this a lot. Right. There's a lot of places in the Bible that says you shall be healed, or free of every disease. You shall be free of every disease, and when you can receive that. But I do believe, you know, you ask permission is what you're kind of doing. You're asking permission from someone, and I'm assuming that the intention of someone else can, like you said, perhaps encourage a direction, even if they don't necessarily have the belief that you're like the son, you know, giving these stones. So I think it's just interrelated, and each person gets to choose in a way, whether they want to receive healing or not. But
it's not what's coming out of your mouth.
No.
You can say yes, 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 yes all day long, but that's, you know, we all know that, you know, that's part of the issues of the society is we're all saying something out of our mouth that we really don't think at all. And so it's more at a soul level or a higher self level that is happening.
So I'm hoping that this is, I didn't get my, it's on pause. There we go. Okay, are we back? Okay, didn't work. So I was just receiving another call on my, are we there? Oh, thank you. Wow, I'm receiving gifts. So we're doing this on my cell phone, and I thought I had blocked other calls, but it didn't work, so. It just doesn't ring. I got it. Okay. So, Blade, are we there? I don't think I have it on speaker anymore. There we go. Okay. All's well? Sorry about that. We had a little interruption. So, thank you very much. I'm very
So, we were
grateful.
talking about how we can be good conduits if we just step aside for that energy.
That we're not in charge.
That's right. We're not in charge. God's in charge. That's right.
That's so fun that we use that word, because I believe that I personally am a conduit for so many, for completely opposite groups of people, and I really considered that a lot last night and this morning about, you know, all these, I'm the hub of the spoke of the wheel that is the connecting point for so many different directions, and I manage them okay. Whether they can manage each other or not, I don't know, but I know that I'm the hub, and I love them all, and it's all perfect. So, excuse me, Dr. Shelley Kaehr, Kaehr.
Yay!
And the name of the book that you want to show the book, you didn't, I don't think, since we are on video as well today, Edgar Cayce's Sacred Stones.
Yes.
And we've talked about 3 of the stones that you're talking about. And how can they get your book, by the way?
There's a link on my website, on Amazon.com as well. They can get the book. So.
Okay, so at
on my website at pastlifelady.com.
Okay. Excuse me. So you got 2 more stones that you're going to talk about?
Yeah. This is one of my favorites. This is Carnelian. when we're talking about frequencies, carnelian is vibrating at the same frequency as the orange. So this one stimulates creativity. This is another one, though, that as a byproduct, I gave this to a friend of mine who is a very devout Christian who lives in North Carolina, who I went to school with, and she didn't believe this. I wrote my first book on gem healing, and I was going to have her edit the book, and she did not believe in any of this at all. So sent her some carnelian, and she told me that this was helping with her allergies. I had not known that. And then since then, I've heard from hundreds of people who said yes, that carnelian can assist with the allergies. Also, Napoleon Bonaparte had a carnelian signet ring that he used to wear that he used for protection in battle. And so this is also a protective stone, and it's one of the stones in the Bible.
It is orange color.
It is, yes. Carnelian is a form of agate, so there's really only so many mineral families, but carnelian is a kind of agate, but it's one of my personal favorites that I love a lot.
And I just learned, we've got other friends, and I'm learning a little bit about the stones and the crystals, and Dale, our friend Dale, had a bunch of crystals and stones, and one was citrine.
Yes,
citrine.
Yes. That's my favorite.
Your favorite for prosperity or something.
Yes, I have a citrine bracelet on. I have this bracelet, and I have rings that I wear, and I'm always wearing something. This one is a tourmaline. It's a green tourmaline. Actually, that's for protection, but yes, gemstones. Dell, he's got the best.
And you do jewelry as well,
yes,
so you make these beautiful stones into the jewelry. So it's all interrelated, and it's just so much fun to know. But I had to get the one, and you had given me a citrine and it was.
And citrine is optimistic. It's good luck. It's a money stone, but it's one of the only stones that doesn't have to be cleared. That's what I'm picking up with all the books I'm reading. But my grids, my stones, my jewelry, sometimes I'll just set it all out on a tray in the sunshine, or I'll spray it with my sage spray, because they really do. They work for us. They intercede with our vibration. If I have citrine on, then that means I'm manifesting prosperity. So it's kind of like boosting my morale, it's all.
And Dale said to put it in your office or in your, wherever you're working or wherever you're trying to manifest income. So citrine, I don't, it can't hurt, right?
That's
Even
right.
if you don't believe it can't hurt.
Citrine is one of my favorites to talk about because it is known as the merchant stone. So it has a long history of, like, if you put it in your cash register and you want the till to grow, you put it in your purse or wallet. So and it opens up all the chakra centers and does not need to be cleansed. Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
very
cool.
Very, very cool. It's vibrating at the yellow ray, so it's got the solar plexus energy center as well.
Happy stone.
It's good. It's good stuff. So.
And it's just a little light yellowish kind of color, right?
Yes. What it is, actually, citrine, if you took amethyst and you heat it up, that's why you have ametrine. This will turn into citrine with sunlight.
Oh, okay.
It will fade to yellow, and it will go from the purple ray to the gold ray.
Interesting.
So I don't have that one with me. So
no, but I have
so many to talk about, and lots in the book. There's hundreds of things that I talk about in these books. So.
So you have another stone over there.
Yeah, I just brought one of my crystals. Crystals are just the clear energy, and so any stone that you work with crystal, it just amplifies that energy. It can be used to open up the crown center at the top of the head. This is kind of what we would consider to be how we're connecting to God, and this stone also can be used alongside any other stone to just amplify the energy. Or let's say if I just want to send an intention into a stone, like I just want to pray over this one and send it love, and then have this stone carry that love frequency to people I'm working with, then that's what crystals are good for. They're amplifiers of energy.
Amplifiers, okay, that's a good word.
So, Shelley, I know you are so multi-dimensional with all your stuff you're doing. Actually, I have also taken another little course from her about book writing. So I know she's on Facebook. If you go to her Facebook page and like her, so when she's having all her stuff scheduled, I'm going to take of course I'm writing a book, and since she's such a professional at writing, I am going to take her course again because I really got a lot from it about book writing as well.
Yeah, we'll have a lot, since it's getting ready to be Thanksgiving, which, like you said, the year is winding down quickly.
Yes.
All those classes will be coming up next year,
Yes.
for sure.
So stay
check the Facebook
tuned.
page. Come like my Past Life Lady page. That's where I'm going to put all those
Yeah,
postings.
Past Life Lady page on
Page,
Facebook and Past
yes.
Life Lady, the Past, is it
It's
Past
just-
Life Lady?
Yeah, pastlifelady.com.
.com? Okay.
Yes.
I finally did that because, unlike Charla, some people can't spell my name. So finally I said, let's just call it something that everybody can spell. So,
Past Life is easy to spell. Past
Yeah.
Life Lady.
yeah,
That's
they're not
really
as good as Charla. They don't know how to spell. So.
Okay.
I love them anyway, but it's very difficult to spell.
It is a challenging name, and there's a lot of challenging names out there. So yours is just one of them.
There
It's
you
all
go.
good.
It is. It's all
Kaehr.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm so glad I practiced.
Good.
But I didn't know how to say it exactly, so it's care.
Care, right.
Like
Care
caring
Bear,
for
care
people, caring for
package.
people.
Yeah, I've heard
I
it all.
care for you. Yeah,
I
so
care
that's
for you.
awesome. Well, I want to give me some examples now of a couple of. I believe in miracles, and they certainly show up a lot more when you believe in them, right? So, when you're aware of them and the synchronicities that are going on. So, you've got a couple of good stories that you want to share, testimonies, or
Yes, I'll tell a couple of my favorites. So, in my hypnotic work, I had a woman who was coming to me several years ago, several times for different situations. She had a very bad drinking problem. And speaking of that, Amethyst is, in terms of stones,
Yes.
is a stone that helps with addictions. Because it was named after Amethyst, who visited the Greek goddess Diana. It's a Greek myth. So this is called the Drunken Stone. So therefore, when we lay it on, it's supposed to alleviate the frequencies by which we can let go of not only like alcoholism or something, but any other addictions. And so over the years, I've worked with many people who have different drug and alcohol situations. So this was one of them. And so she came to me. And the sessions that I do with people, they're more like soul journeys. So we take you into the past, we take you into the future where you can see your life unfolding the way God meant it to unfold. And so I had her, in this case, some of us, unfortunately, we're not going to learn unless things get really, really painful. So when I took her out to the future, there was a fork in the road, and I said, let's imagine that one side of that fork is what's going to happen if this drinking doesn't stop, and the other side of the fork is going to be what happens if we go ahead and, stop this right now and move forward in the destiny that God really has to unfold for you. And so I had her travel out to both. In one of the realities, she saw that she was in a car accident where an entire family was killed. And normally you don't want to bring up these kinds of things, but in this case, we had her really tune into that so that she could fully feel the ramifications of what was going to happen if, and again, through guided imagery, it's kind of like you're using the power of your imagination to go there. So she sees that this is not a desirable outcome. Then we had her go out into the other, where she's living a happy life and things are going smoothly. So, again, it's just a God thing. Like, you can take people into different experiences, but unless you believe in your soul that the things you're seeing and experiencing are possible, and like Charla was saying earlier, you're choosing to have joy, you're choosing to have the highest potential that you can have for your life, then it really isn't going to happen. And that's something that, unfortunately, I don't have any control over that, because I can do the best I can to encourage somebody, but they're still going to have to do it for themselves. So I ran into this woman several years later, and she was not drinking anymore. And her life had totally turned around. She had a nice job, she was dating, and things were just going very smoothly. So that's one of my favorites.
did she come to you for that problem?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So she was not trying to hide it and trying to
No.
skirt around it. She was like, it was an issue she was directly
Exactly.
working on.
Exactly. And a lot of times I don't want to really work with people who are like I'm not the kind of person who's going to work with somebody who wants to quit smoking. I mean, I have done that, but to me, there's a very complex undercurrent of what's going on in someone's soul and where they're at. There's nothing that I can do for someone to help them. I'm not going to be able to wave the wand and it's all going to go away, because, it has to come from finally being fed up with that behavior, or finally just getting to the place where you're wanting to do it for yourself and you want the encouragement of somebody who can help you take that decision and kind of push it over the edge. Like when I take out people out into current life futures, this is something I wrote my book Livestream in several years ago, and Brian Weiss had endorsed it, and he came up to me and said, I don't know how to take people into a current life future, because when we take them there, what if they see something unpleasant? And normally, like, this is an exception where I wanted her to see something unpleasant. Normally I want to take somebody to the place where they're happy and healthy and things are going well, and then from that happy place, and I'll say, well, how did you get there? And you'll say, well, first I read the book, then I listened to Charla's show, and then I did dee, and then they kind of can, it's almost like reverse engineering, because if I can get people to understand the steps, you know, every big change in your life is happening from one little step that's taking you there. And so if I can get them on that going, oh, okay, you know what, maybe if I just take out these little bite-sized steps, then this isn't so hard anymore. And so, you know, that's kind of where it was at. So she came to have those things alleviated. A lot of times I wouldn't, you know, I kind of have to gauge where is the person on that road. And in this case, I believe, you know, it was really her. It was her decision.
It's her choice. Yeah,
it's her
she gets
choice,
to choose.
because we're all here to choose what we want. We have these possibilities, and we have to choose.
And what I think so many people are stopped by is they want to know what's next. They want to know, and the thing that I've said more this year than probably anything is that I don't have to know. I just need to be open and willing to step into the next thing, and I'm not attached to the outcome, I'm attached to the efforts.
Right.
And when you can become, you know, just do what's next instead of, you know, needing to know, then doors continue to fly open. And I know I started out talking about that in this show, but that's a huge deal to me. That people they want the control of knowing, and when you can release that, and the freedom that comes from that is really nice. And you know, and you can just love where you are and know that you leave fast, and yeah, maybe 2 minutes actually. So anything else, Dr. Shelley Kaehr, that we can you want to close out with, and how can we get that word out there and how they find you the best?
Okay, great. Well, first of all, Charla, thanks again for having me on the show. Awesome. I'm loving that you're getting this information out to people, because it's needed. For those of you at home, you know, we all have good times in our lives. We have challenging times in our lives. And I just really believe that, you know, life is kind of like the ocean. There's waves, ups and downs. But the thing is that we all have choices to make. And every day there's that choice that feels the best. And part of that to me is just being open to different opportunities, just like you said, that are coming to you, different ideas, different ways of thinking about things, and just knowing that no matter where you're at today, there's just no telling where you can go tomorrow. You can create any kind of a life that you want to live, because you deserve to have the greatest life that anybody could ever have. And it's all possible.
Everything is possible, and it's a choice, and joy is a choice, and that's where I live my life. Thank you, Wanda, for being here.
Yes.
Wanda Ironheart, IronheartEnergyHealing.com. Thank you, Dr. Shelley Kaehr with PastLifeLady.com. And this is Charla Anderson with CharlaAwakened. For such a time as this, I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, which is next week.
Yay,
and we're
happy
going to have a wonderful concerto that my friend Carla Faye White and Eileen Hummel did for me last year. So next week, noon to 1 on Thursday, we'll be having a little break. And see you next time. God bless.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.